All right, I wanted to do another video. The last video I made and posted, I was packing up my place, and it was an unusual situation that, so this is for anybody that's kind of following along. My last video, you can go back a couple posts on my wall. I was packing up my place, just getting ready to tear down our apartment because we were moving. And I think it was 3 or 4 days before the movers were coming. I didn't know where I was moving to. Very unusual situation. And I mean, so much has happened. I need to really do a recap for anybody that's following along on this crazy story. And so, it all started out, Nan and I wanted to buy a house. And, we did everything everybody else does, pre-approved for a loan. And we put in, you have to put in a 2-month notice where we live, and so we did that. So the clock was really started ticking and we were really looking hard. We were bidding on places. We were looking for a place that we could add value to, kind of like as a flip, to live the flip was our intentions. And we kept getting beat out by cash buyers. I mean, it was very frustrating. Nan, as a designer, she would redesign every place that we were interested in. And I'm tearing off this wall and painting these colors. And so it was a little tougher for her. We even bid $11,000 over asking on this one house and still got beat out by a cash buyer. So in that process, there was a lot of disappointment, but there was a lot of activity on our end because, it takes 30 to 45 days to get a loan processed. And once we put in notice, we had 2 months. The clock was really ticking. And so we really had accelerated our activity to try to find a house. And so it's interesting the way these events dovetailed because I posted on my wall a message called The Wilderness. I didn't have intentions of doing that. It was just one of those things where I find myself doing it, and I did it, and I just thought, well, that must have been for somebody. Well, I didn't realize it's a really good message. The message was for me too. Because shortly after posting that message, the Lord spoke to my heart and he said, I don't want you, he says, you're not going to get a house by the arm of the flesh, so stop looking. Clearly, this is what the Lord told me. And so I was like, uh-oh. I knew what that meant. In the Bible, the arm of the flesh is your own strength. And so we were exercising our own strength and we were really trying to find a house. And so the Lord was telling me, quit looking. And so that means he wants us to depend on him. Lean not unto your own wisdom and understanding. Trust the Lord in all your ways and he'll direct your path. And so I was like, okay. And I knew where this was going to go. I knew where this was going to go ahead of time because the Lord always shows up at the last minute. The 11th hour. Ask anybody that knows God, and this is just kind of how it works. And so I knew where we were headed, and so what ended up happening was, 45 days goes by, and then 30 days go by, and now it's like I don't have time to get a loan. And so here comes the devil. What's the devil going to do? Okay, well, there's a battle coming. I told Dan, time to sharpen your sword because we're going to battle. And it's funny because, if you look at the story of Adam and Eve in the garden, the devil told Eve, has God really said? Because, they weren't supposed to eat from the tree in the midst of the garden. And so the first thing the devil does is says, has God really said? So that's what he was telling me. Has God really said to stop looking for a house? This puts you in a dangerous position. And it's funny because Nan was asking the same thing. Are you sure God told you? But she trusts, we're both led of the Lord. And so she trusts that I was truly hearing from God. And so we started getting closer and closer to having to be out of our place with nowhere to go. And, it was interesting because we told a lot of people, everybody's like, where are you moving to? It's like, well, I don't know. And so right out the gate, that put us out in left field, and then, it's interesting because some people, wasn't just, we're going to sit on our hands and God will provide because, I had gotten a specific word from the Lord to stop looking, all right? And it got down to like I was a week away, and Nan and I we were praying every day. We had peace. I mean, God gave us peace. It's like I had mentioned, this isn't our first rodeo, but you know, as you get closer and closer, it's like, okay, you know, this is where the rubber meets the road. And so I shot the video. I rented a 10 by 30 storage unit. And I packed it floor to ceiling. I mean, I used to work at Roadway and I used to pack trucks. And so, you know, once it gets so far back, it's gone. And then I got a 10 by 15 and I filled that. And then I got another 10 by 15. And so everything we own are in these storage units. And, you know, I was expecting to go into a house that I could call my own. And so we packed that way. I mean, the most important stuff obviously went in last, but everything, when your whole life is in a box, I mean, it's like, which box? Of course, we labeled the boxes, but towards the end, things start getting mixed up. And so I took the video. You can see it on my Facebook. Nan had created such a wonderful place for us to live that I wanted to get a video of it before I tore it down. So here we go. We're down to like the last day. We're talking 24, 48 hours. Okay, well, then things are really heating up. Here comes the devil. And it's like everything starts going wrong. You know, I mean, the movers showed up. Okay, I was talking about the movers coming. They showed up with no truck. It's like, you know, we saw somebody moving, a friend of ours. How are the movers? Oh, they're doing a great job. 2 guys, you see a truck. So we called them up. We want them to move us. And they showed up with no truck. And so Nan's like, I'm looking out. I don't see any truck. So I was like, well, what did you drive? They're like, a Honda Civic. Nan's like, ha, ha, ha. Great joke. All right. No, they really drove a Honda Civic. We're a labor-only company. I was like, you are? They didn't tell us that over the phone. And so, as it turned out, you know, 2-3 miles away, I had rented a storage unit that has a truck. I said, well, you know, we don't have a truck. You guys have to leave. We're on an island. There's only one way out, so let's stop at this place, and I'll see if I can get their truck. And as it turned out, I got the truck. It was $4 in gas, and they only charged me $10. So I get a truck for $14, okay, which is really cool. And then, so the movers show up, and then I go to move my truck, the battery's dead. Okay, well, all my tools are packed. And so I end up calling AAA, I need a battery, and then I'm riding my motorcycle, and I'm almost out of gas. I go to gas up, and the key breaks. The locking gas cap breaks. So all of these things, and things start heating up, and then you get all this stress, and I mean, Nan and I were fine, but when it got down to the last, let's say the last day, let me just be honest, it started getting ugly because everything was going wrong, and then Nan, you saw in the video, Nan had painted all these pretty colors in our place, and they told us, the office, that if you paint a wall, if you paint accent walls, there's $100 upcharge. So we're like, well, that's not a bad deal. So, but you know, fast forward 6-7 years later, the management team has changed 3 times, and the company has changed, and now they measure the walls and charge accordingly. So it was probably going to be, we had 6 accent walls plus the kitchen was painted another color, and so it would have probably cost over $300. So I'm on the last day I find this out, and so, and mind you, I don't know where I live. I'm gonna live tomorrow. All right, and so it's like I get it. I was telling people the Red Sea doesn't part until you get there. Okay, well, we were there, and people were saying, well, where are you going? I'm like, I'm gonna find out soon, because I was down to the last day, and and so everything was going wrong. So here I am. I'm like, I'm gonna paint these walls. You know, I'm not paying $300 plus, you know, for this painting. And so I run out. Last day, I'm like, I'm painting. I'm like, well, I have to find out by midnight, right? I'm not allowed to be in my apartment past midnight. Otherwise, I'm breaking my lease. So God's got to tell me where I'm living by midnight. All right. So that was my whole mindset. And, you know, midnight, I'm still painting 3 coats on every one of these walls because they were dark colors. I painted till 2 o'clock in the morning. I got up at 5, okay, and I had to get back, and I had to go clean 3 post offices and then get back and pack out what little bit was left. before the office opened up. And so I was praying, and it's interesting because what happened is on my last day, the day before, I was approached by somebody that I knew, and we had a mutual friend, and I was telling him, he's not a believer. I was telling him, I just gave him the whole testimony about how we were waiting on the Lord, and trusting him to show us where we were going to live because of what he had told me. So he says, well, Laura's paying 2 house payments right now, and she could use somebody in one of her houses. You know what I mean? It would help her out. And so maybe you can rent her house. And I was thinking, well, I don't want to rent somewhere. I mean, I didn't see that as God. That I wanted a house of my own, And so I kind of disregarded what he had told me. Well, then midnight came and went. I'm driving around the next morning and I'm praying. It's like, I need some answers, okay? And I really felt like the Lord was showing me, well, remember when Steve approached you yesterday? And so I'm calling Steve up, and then we're calling our friend up, and we ended up staying with my brother and sister-in-law in Venice overnight, and then we moved into her house. She let us move into her house, all newly remodeled, beautiful ranch, gorgeous, $800 a month, no security deposit. It's like, okay, that's kind of an act of God, because it's really expensive to rent here. You can't get a 1,500 square foot ranch that's beautifully remodeled with no security deposit for prorating the first month there for $800 a month. All right, so it's helping her out. Of course, it's helping us out. And so as it turned out, so we move in there on a Saturday, and she just put it up for sale. No realtor, just, hung a sign out there, and somebody wanted to come and look at the house. So Nan and I got busy. I mean, we have a cleaning business, and the place had been vacant for a little bit of time. So we're running around. I'm, cleaning all the windows inside and out, the sliders, and getting everything. Nan's a realtor. She gets it all show ready. And so we do all this activity to get it ready. You know what I mean? We moved in Saturday. The showing was Monday. So this was the house we just moved into. And somebody comes in and they're like, I love the house and I want to pay cash and move in immediately. We're like, great. I mean, oh, darn, So the place we moved into, we're losing. We have 9 days, or I forget, it was something like that, 9 days to vacate. All right. And so we're like, okay, all right, well, this was just a pit stop apparently on the way to wherever we're going. And so now we're back to not knowing where we're going to live again. Well, meanwhile, we found a house that, we had prayed and prayed. We did a lot of praying in this process, let me tell you. And I have to share that when it got down to the last day, I mean, it got ugly. Nan and I we were mad and we were yelling at each other, and there was all this stress and it was awful. It's like, packing, moving is stressful and difficult anyways, but to pack these storage units, and then we got where we were going and everything we owned was in a box. Where's this and where's that? I mean, we labeled the boxes, but it's like so much stuff. Nan misplaced her keys, and I mean, where's our winter clothes? We had this cold weather come, and I had to go buy a jacket because it was just really it was difficult. And so then we ended up there. We have like 9 days, and so we're like, okay, we're back to walking by faith, and so. We get down, we have 2 days. I think we're down to 2 days. And we're just praying at this point. We're like, Lord, show us where we're going next. And now, meanwhile, we're have all this activity. We found a house. We're doing everything we need to make the purchase. You know what I mean? We're signing a purchase contract and all of this stuff we negotiated, and our bid was accepted. And so we have, a place we're going to. But again, it's typically 30 to 45 days to close a loan. And we're a good ways from that. And so, but we're just, at this point, we're just trusting the Lord. We're not worried about it. You know what I mean? We're not stressed out. We're not worried. But, we're very prayerful. We're like, where are we going to go? And so then I'm like thinking, good grief, I have, these clients, that we know we clean for, like, on the island, most of them are gone. You know what I mean? We're just looking at options. Where's a place that we can rent for a month? And so, it's tough to rent for a month, especially here, because people want to come and winter down here. And so, I mean, typically things are by the week, okay? And, our budget is like really stretched. It's limited. Down payment, you're looking at all these, expenses. I'm paying, $500-600 a month to store everything. I have all these storage units. And so it ends up, we end up in a beautiful house right on the beach, with just this picturesque view of the bay and the crashing waves. And it's like, oh my God. So this is where we're at, We are in a dream beach house. I mean, Nan is just like, this is my dream. I mean, I had to close all the windows or you wouldn't hear me because the waves are crashing, okay? And so really I have to say, what is the purpose in all this? What is, and so, the Lord uses trials to grow us in our faith. And so that's a big part of this purpose. And Nan and I had pretty much had like what I would call like a season of rest, I mean, of course, there's always your regular life difficulties and stuff, but I mean, no really significant. You look around, you see all these people. I have a friend that just passed away from cancer, and I mean, a lot of real life trials, And, the Lord wants us to trust Him and to walk by faith. And so this really dovetails into what He was trying to teach us, to trust Him. He says, He honors His word above His name. And so when He told me, to quit looking for a house, I go to the Word. I'm looking for scriptures that I can stand on, okay? And when I was telling Ann, time to sharpen your sword, I mean, this was a spiritual battle, because the enemy, it says, when the enemy comes in like a flood, the Lord will raise up a standard against him. And so this was a spiritual battle, and the devil is very real, and you have to stand in my testimony, or in my message about the wilderness. If you scroll back, it's pretty much the wilderness is available to anybody, and it's anybody that wants to walk by faith and trust in the promises of God. Well, God says, Jesus says, I'll never leave you and forsake you. It says that all things work together for good for those who love God. Okay? It says God will supply all our needs according to Christ's riches and glory. And so that was my verse, because I need a place to live. And so God promised to supply all my needs. And so that was the verse that I was standing on. And that is like literally when the devil's telling you you're an idiot, what are you going to do now? You don't have time to get a loan. All these people think you're nuts. I mean, our one friend is so precious, she would send us, we're like a week out. You don't have a place to live yet? She's a realtor. She's like, here's 40 houses to look at, because, and it was funny. She was just so helpful. And everybody has had the opportunity to see us walk this path out and see how faithful God is, and we are living in a dream house right on the bay, waiting for our house to close. I mean, it is gorgeous here. The waves crashing. I mean, this is just ministering to our soul to be here. And so I was standing on God shall supply all our needs according to Christ's riches and glory, but we have to spend time in the Word. We have to memorize the scriptures. It says no weapon formed against us will prosper. If God is for us, who can be against us? It says many are the afflictions of the righteous, but the Lord will deliver me from them all. There's all these scriptures that we need to stand on, but they're appropriated by faith. We have to get them inside of us, because life's trials create all these difficulties, and God is Jesus is our strong tower. All right. And, it makes a lot of people, they're like, what do you mean God told you? Okay, well, think about it. I mean, I've had a relationship with God for over 20 years. I know God better than a lot of the people. We lived in our complex for many years, and I know God better than I know them people because I talk to God every day. And you know, in the beginning, I would hear from God, and I wasn't sure. I mean, I used to fast and pray, and it took a while, and I became conditioned on how God speaks to me, and it's through many different ways. He speaks to me in my spirit. Sometimes he'll speak to me in the Word. It might be a Facebook post. You know what I'm saying? And so we need to be in tune to how God leads us, to how He speaks to us. We need to be all about studying this book because there isn't anything more important. There's nothing more important than studying the Word of God and interacting with God. I mean, the only way you can get to know God is to talk to Him. And that's the only way a relationship is formed. So if you don't know God, you need to understand that the bridge to God is Christ. Okay? Jesus paid the penalty for our sin, and you need to surrender your life to Jesus Christ because He paid the penalty for our sin. And we have to believe in our heart that Jesus was the Son of God, that God raised Him from the dead. All right? And then, because it says, with the heart we believe, with the mouth confession is made unto salvation. And so whatever's in our heart, we're going to speak. And so we need to understand that the penalty for our sin was laid upon Christ. When we surrender our life to Jesus Christ and His sacrifice pays for our sin, that's when we really receive that gift of salvation. We become born again. God puts His Spirit on the inside of us, and then you have something you didn't have before. And so our ability to communicate with God is accelerated because the Spirit of God is literally dwelling within us. It says, what? Didn't you know your body is the temple of the Holy Spirit, which dwells within you? You know, if the Spirit of He who rose Christ from the dead dwells within you, it shall quicken your mortal body, the Scripture says. And so anyways, that's kind of our story right now. I'm gonna flip the camera on. You got to see this view. It's just absolutely gorgeous here. And I just wanted to do an update to, because we're not there yet. So this house we picked out is awesome. It's got this massive lanai with a hot tub right in the middle of it. It needs all these updates, which is good because that's kind of what we wanted. And so let me show you real quick.